What's going on, guys? Gio here from Fandom United, back with another reaction video. And you may have heard me talk about the VFX for Zack Snyder's Justice League. You might have heard other fans talk about the visual effects for Zack Snyder's Justice League. But what about actual VFX artists? Well, that's what I'm going to bring to you guys today via a reaction video. So join me in watching for the first time other VFX artists give their critiques for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and should be a fun one. So let's get it started.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Never really before in history have we had the chance to compare the same high-budget films side by side with itself.
The Snyder version feels like it has more momentum and weight.
The human lip is the hardest thing to do in CG.
You will love me.
Man, Steppenwolf just looks like a dude.
Huge thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's episode. Stick around to the end to find out how you can get 3 months free.
Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Visual Effects Artist React. Today we are looking at some incredible Marvel movies. Scratch that. No, you heard that right. Today we're looking at not just the Justice League, but the Snyder Cut, and kind of comparing the two because a lot of work was done to make sure the Snyder Cut could happen, and I want to look at the differences.
And a lot of money was spent too.
How expensive was this movie? Because it's like they filmed the movie, then they filmed all the reshoots.
Over 300
they did all the
million.
visual effects for the original cut of the movie, and then for the reshoots, and then for the Snyder Cut. Each time there's money being spent.
It's probably more than you think is probably the answer to that. But no one will know. They'll keep that under lock and key. Not even the masked detective himself, Batman, could figure that out. I'm willing to wager.
Damn right.
Everybody asked us to react to this. That's super cool. So hey, we like those comments. Keep them coming. It helps us know what to look at.
In terms of just like the idea of doing something like this cinematically is crazy. It is like unprecedented in terms of film history because movie studios don't go back to revisit their stuff. They'll like make a sequel or whatever. It's the first time, as far as we can tell, right, where it's like, okay, cool, everyone wanted this original version, fine, we'll go and do it again.
Yeah, like normally when you see a director's cut, it's using the same source material with just slightly different editing, like with Blade Runner, you know? It's like, it's basically the same movie, just with a few different implications.
What they didn't do is they didn't go back and reshoot Blade Runner again to make a new version of the original Blade Runner.
Never really before in history have we had the chance to compare
Yes,
the
exactly.
same high-budget films side by side with itself.
Exactly, which is
nothing
why
like it.
a close frame-by-frame study of the Snyder Cut versus the Whedon Cut is a film school in a box because you can infer everything from how does the visual effects approach differ, from how does the script writing and story level differ, from how long a shot's being held to what sequences are rearranged and what else they reshot for the Whedon Cut versus the Snyder Cut. You can learn quite a bit from it.
It's its own thing. It's important to have a good file name.
Barry Allen.
Right away, the color correction approach is different. Like, look at the skin tone difference, period,
Yep.
right? Like in terms of the reds, how much more intensely colorful the Whedon Justice League is
Because
versus
like
Snyder.
they got
Color grading
sunburned.
starts delving into the world of visual effects. Like, arguably, color grading is visual effects. It's you taking your film and manipulating the colors, putting vignettes on, masking certain things out, you know, swapping the blue hue of the sky for more of a gold or something like that. Like, that's visual effects.
People think of color grading as just like dropping a filter on top of footage and it does what it does. And it's like, no, there's actually a lot of specific attention played out in different parts of an image just to get those colors and lighting contrast right.
For everybody who kind of like makes fun of like, oh, Zack Snyder Justice League is like, oh, it's all muted and stuff like that. It's like, well, no, he's still getting tonality out of it.
Snyder's almost has like a metallic look to it.
Yeah. The other thing is also a big difference in the Snyder Cut. Square frame 4:3 versus widescreen. So this is actually something that I think is really interesting. It's a huge, huge thing. I mean, it became
Say
a
it.
meme, right? Oh, the Snyder's vision. Here's the thing I think is interesting about 4:3.
Say it.
I've always felt that super widescreen for superhero movies makes the superheroes look small. Like when there's a big vista and the person doesn't quite fit in that frame. It's like just from a visual standpoint, I've always felt like it makes human figures in wide vistas look tiny, which is not the emotional feeling of superhero movies. Superhero movies are about big, larger than life characters. So weirdly enough, when I look at the square format stuff, comparing the two movies when I watched it, I actually really liked the square format because it made the individual characters feel like these like godlike figures more so than I think widescreen does.
I'm pretty sure the original Justice League movie was finished at the widescreen. The VFX shots were finished at that aspect ratio. Did they have to go back and re-render them with the extra resolution up on top and bottom?
This movie is why it's important to have a good file naming convention structure for your projects, because you never know when you need to go back and open up those old files. You can't open up that folder and be like, ooh, shot 30-1, version 3, final 4. Oh, which one is it? No, you can't have that.
And that's all on Weta. Like, they did such a good job being able to like bring up their old project files.
Oh,
But here's
nice
the thing.
edit.
It's one thing to be able to like open up the old project files, but you can't just like make it rework for the new stuff that they're adding here. We're gonna have to like dive into that here.
Like a dude. Yeah.
So I think it is time to address probably the biggest elephant in the room, Steppenwolf. And I think it's very safe to say that one is quite a bit cooler than the other. That's a mild way of putting it.
Way
And
cooler.
Steppenwolf just looks like a dude in the 2017
Straight up.
version.
No, like he is. It's straight up just a dude.
I feel like old Steppenwolf's name would be like Brody.
The original Steppenwolf, which is, okay, to clarify, the Steppenwolf we see in Justice League is not the original Steppenwolf. The one we see in the Snyder Cut is the original. That was the original design. They had this character before Joss Whedon came on board. Like, it looked like that. And they redesigned him, not intentionally to make him look lame, but that was the result.
So one thing that is interesting to me looking at the character design, right? One of them I just don't buy winning against a bunch of Amazons.
superheroes?
Right? Like the one in this giant scaly metal thing, it's like I buy a bunch of people holding it and building it up. It doesn't quite work as well if it's this guy in this costume with this sort of medieval looking armor and you have 8 different Amazons holding him down. It just doesn't quite have the same impact. I will say when I was watching it, I found myself like just exploring the physicality of this CG creature way more. Just looking at his like chest and looking at the little, like the way his shoulders are built.
His traps.
Like, my eye had something to do like during it, you know?
Steppenwolf's armor is super detailed, right? It's like hyper detailed. There's little bits everywhere. Now there's a big danger to doing something like that because it can very quickly become noise. And it would be a danger of you losing any of his form if you did that. There's 2 things they did to fix that. One is his silhouette is super clean and smooth. The fact that his suit is so shiny, you can still see the bright white outlines of his body as he moves. There's not little spikes everywhere. That's one of the problems you run into with the Transformers robots.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, there's not really a readable silhouette. But there's another thing that they do. So imagine somebody wearing a hyper detailed polka dot outfit. Maybe the silhouette is smooth, but it's still just noise everywhere, right? Well, that's what you could have had happen with Steppenwolf, and that is what happens with his helmet in the 2017 version, is that it's just a bunch of squiggles, which is basically the same thing as just noise. In the new version, there's a pattern, almost like the direction of your hair, to all of the pieces of his armor. And one of the things the human eye is surprisingly good at is detecting parallel lines and then changes in those lines. Like, I could put a big, pile of noodles on the floor. I could have them all point in the same direction, and I could take
we've done
one.
that before, by the way.
I could take one noodle and turn it from the direction of all the others, and you could just look at it and immediately be like, that noodle's in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And it seems normal until you think about it. Your eye can process 1,000 objects and immediately tell instantly when one is not aligned. And that's the thing that they're relying upon with Steppenwolf's armor, is that by doing the pattern and the flow to it, you're also getting shape, clear, distinct, macro shapes in his armor, even though it's made out of a bunch of micro shapes.
Love his
And
armor.
some of the animations with the new model, you can see in some of the sequences, it's a weightier animation set. They went in and just tweaked it. And you can look at some of the movements in earlier versions and then see where it ends up in the Snyder Cut. You can actually see it evolve from being this feels floaty to oh, this feels a little more like there's something there and there's momentum behind it.
There's one shot of Steppenwolf that literally made my jaw just drop when I saw it.
Sick.
Just take care to look at the interaction between the liquid and CG characters.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a 3D puddle right there.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. Just put a puddle in there, make it harder. Hey, do you want this shot to be a little harder for everybody? Put a puddle in there. Get some water in. Oh.
But it's more than just the puddle. There's mud that's coming up and the water's interacting with it. That's sick.
So dope. That's sick.
I saw that. I was like, oh my God. People have no idea how much effort just went into that one small moment to really like merge and marry Steppenwolf with the scene. It's small tricks like that that really help sell CG objects as being real, interaction.
But I can see that mud in the water being actual displacement from a real person. Just watch it stick under his left foot. Boink. The way that stick moves and that little splash in the water there, I don't think that's CG.
But look at the size of his foot. No one's walking around with size 48 feet.
Big old
you can
boots,
put big old
dude.
boots on.
Big old boots, dog.
It's just the awareness to make a stick bounce in the perfectly realistic way like that.
That's just good artistic detail.
I think that
detail.
stick feels real to me.
Yeah, it feels real to me too. Maybe Weta will let us know.
But yeah, no, here I actually would be super interested to see a breakdown of this specific shot. Weta, HBO, whoever, Warner Brothers, make it happen.
Right? Give us more content.
Props to Snyder for showing the stunt people hit the ground when they do the
Yes.
stunt. Like in the original cut, she hits the wall and it cuts away. It's like the wall impact isn't what's important. It's the impact on the ground that's important. I mean, anybody can go, ugh. It's the
It's the
splat
hit. It's
that
the
hurts.
wreck. Yes.
Yeah.
Snyder's someone who I think, when you look at his work, is someone who is like obsessed with the dynamics of the human body and stunt people and their movement. I think it shows because the Snyder version feels like it has more momentum and weight.
This
So she's gonna
part.
make a run for it. There's a real cost here. Needs to get out with the box, right? They're gonna have to break the wooden supports in order to drop gates.
Trapping themselves
Trapping
in that
themselves
hallway.
Those
into the
abs.
hallway.
Knowingly doing so.
Those abs
To me, this is a
aren't
huge
VFX.
difference between the two.
No, they're not.
These shots here of these Amazons knocking down the pillars, done in slow motion. Look at how many more there are. Zack Snyder is so in love with the human form that he gives you the entire wind-up all the way around, which gives you the sense of weight and the heaviness of it. What do you get in the Whedon cut? You get the last bit of it of just the impact.
Yeah.
It's not about the impact. It's about this Herculean effort to like throw this hammer all the way around. Just like, these are giant, larger than life beings destroying things. It's so much more intense to build up. Look at how much you're gonna miss in the original cut of just their struggle holding it up and how much of a build up it is. Long slide shot all the way and slow all the way, and you see it, this finality of it closing, as opposed to in Justice League, it's just like, cool, okay, they're just trapped in it, because there's no point.
And then what's crazy here is that in the original Justice League, they just leave and then he busts through the
Yes.
wall and chases after them. But in the Snyder cut,
God.
you're like, there are hundreds of people in that thing and it's now
everyone.
falling into the ocean. They are all dying right now. You're just like, when I watched the Snyder cut of this, I was just like, my jaw was literally dropped.
This scene was so much cooler in the Snyder cut.
And we're not even talking about the visual effects
And the
here
visual
right
effects
now.
look great there.
The visual effects are
amazing.
great. Look at this
Look at
shot.
that.
Look at this shot. Look at this amazing shot.
It's arguably a flawless shot. Like the physics are perfect, the smoke is perfect, the lighting's great. Like
This was definitely a money shot on their list of like important shots.
Big money shot. The dust getting in there, water interaction.
Not Warner Brothers. Nope. Man, I love this video. Oh, yes.
I love
That's my
that
favorite
right there.
detail.
Yeah.
pretty cool. And the glass melts, that's amazing. Some artists had to make a perfect movie quality CG hot dog.
I say overall, this scene is pretty dang great. Like my misgivings for like how it actually happened with her and momentum and all that stuff, like it doesn't matter. He saves the woman from a car crash in a really cool slow-mo way. How do you think they filmed that though?
Music, everything.
I imagine she's on a wire.
It's kind of like a wire, but I think it's actually a motion control arm. She's got her hair pulled back, so all of the hair you see is
interesting.
computer generated.
They did the CG hair also for Wonder Woman when she's moving really fast in that fight scene. When she's ramping all over the place, her hair wouldn't move like that if you just did regular speed ramps. They had to take her hair out.
But there's another aspect of her that's
Wow.
computer generated that you might not have realized. her clothes.
Oh, really? Because they need a ripple in the correct way.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's textbook. Oh, you think you know what's CG in this shot? You're like, oh yeah. What about all her hair and her coat? Oh, you didn't look real. I saw it. I could tell. No, you didn't.
Yeah. Notice how he's being very careful to keep his hands outstretched and not actually pressing down on her, because they knew that they're going to have to replace all of that. So they didn't want to have like him physically conforming his hand to clothing that's not there yet.
It takes some skill.
They actually nailed the surface contact shadows between his hand and her clothes really well. There are moments in the movie, in the Snyder Cut, that they needed to do basically reshoots without reshooting. So what did they do?
Well, they probably used old footage.
They used old footage. So there's a scene between Darkseid and Superman, and he's like all like sad and whatnot. But it's from Man of Steel after Zod dies. That's like the actual moment from the movie years ago. They added a little bit of a CG tear going down his face too.
The only thing jank is the shadow from Darkseid. As we talked about in the Harry Potter piece, it's really hard to add shadow on something that's already lit.
But I mean, that being said, they did a really good job here. It doesn't take you out of it at all. It's just a cool detail that it's like, you know, in order to make something happen, you pull out all the stops to, you know, just do what's necessary. Oh, you got to use old footage? Well, make it work.
Yep. Warner Brothers not letting him do his thing, so he had to do it other way.
Well, in that case.
Another thing that blew me away when I went back to rewatch the Justice League was that the Snyder Cut opens on this really like moody moment of Superman dying and yelling and sound waves going out. And then the original Justice League opens up with, "Hi, I'm Superman." For those of you who don't know the story, Henry Cavill was currently working on Mission Impossible 5, 6?
Something like that.
Mission Impossible Mustache Edition.
He was contractually obligated to keep that mustache. He couldn't shave it for these reshoots. And they're like, you'd fix it in post, right? Well,
the human lip is the hardest thing to do in CG.
So in the new version, this is just not present at all. It was completely cut. There is no reshoot of Henry Cavill with a mustache in the Snyder Cut.
Because those were reshoots for the Whedon cut originally, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? Zack Snyder, he's doing away with Joss Whedon's original vision, you know? And I think we should bring it back. We should bring back the Whedon cut. So I think we need to give Superman the mustache he deserves.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We have all of this incredible reference footage from Mission Impossible of Henry Cavill with the mustache. What if we deep fake the mustache back onto all of the Superman shots? Because Superman needs a mustache. That's right, we are releasing the mustache cut. So subscribe for that video. It's coming out very soon. Don't forget, we got, Peter here, and he doesn't do things not at 900%. I mean, how big would Superman's mustache actually be?
Good question. I mean, you guys know how Superman shaves, right? They address this. There's a canon to how Superman shaves.
Really?
He uses lasers, right? Yep.
Yes. So good.
Kind of want to see that in live action.
Hey guys, Jake here, back with today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. Now you might think brand integrations are an unimportant part of this show, but I can assure you
guys,
you've
but
never
I'm gonna
seen
skip
somebody
this part.
react to. Hey.
What a weird thing to exist. It's right, there's so many things that had to come together for this movie to exist. It's one of these weird artifacts of film history that happens so rarely that when it does, it warrants your attention. And you know what? If you're into film, definitely recommend going frame by frame and really thinking about what the differences are and how they affect the final product and your perception of the final product.
There's a lot of comments in these threads talking about how great Dungeons and Daddies is.
No, people liking the podcast.
Yeah, so people are listening.
So I've been doing this podcast called Dungeons and Daddies. It's a D&D podcast. This last year I've also been helping out my dad with his book, which describes his escape from the Chinese Cultural Revolution by swimming the channel.
All right, well, that just about does it for that video. The YouTube channel is called Corridor Crew, and I gotta say I'm a fan of these guys. I loved how they brought the little details to attention here for pretty much everyone who's watching. And a reminder, Zack Snyder, Debbie Snyder, and the VFX crew had to do 2,600 VFX shots in 6 months. It's unheard of. That's ridiculous. But they got it done. And Zack Snyder's Justice League, like I said, it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's a 4-hour epic that you can revisit here and there, and it's a lot of great stuff in there. But that's going to do it for this reaction. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Name's Gio from Fandom United. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your subscriptions. And I'll see you guys soon with another reaction video. Take care.